My name is Mira Hale, 35 years old. Last Christmas was the last time I drove my kids to my parents' house. I didn't know it yet when we left the driveway, but looking back, the signs were already there, hanging low over us like the heavy snow clouds that hadn't started falling yet. The roads were almost empty, the kind of quiet that makes you turn the radio down without realizing it. My son sat in the back seat, his lips moving silently as he practiced the short Christmas poem he'd memorized from my mother. My daughter held a folded piece of construction paper in her lap, the picture she'd drawn of our family standing in front of a fireplace. She'd glued cotton balls along the top for snow and used too much glitter for the tree. "Do you think Grandpa will wear his reindeer tie?" my son asked. "He always does," my daughter answered, like it was a fact of the universe. I smiled, hands tight on the steering wheel. "We'll see." We pulled up in front of the house just before 10. The porch light was on even though it was daytime. It gave the place a strange, staged look, like it was waiting for someone else. I parked, unbuckled the kids, and we walked up the front steps. Same faded wreath, same cracked welcome mat that said family in cursive letters. I knocked. No answer. I waited, listening, wondering if maybe they were in the kitchen, if the TV was turned up too loud. The upstairs curtain twitched. Just a slight shift, enough to let me know someone was looking. Another minute passed. I knocked again. This time, the door opened, but only a few inches, just enough for my mother's face to appear in the gap. No smile, no Merry Christmas, no, "Oh, look at the kids." She peered out, eyes darting past me to the driveway like she was checking for someone else. Then she leaned forward slightly and said, voice flat and measured, "Today isn't a good day for your kind of energy." That was it. No explanation, no invitation, just a gentle push of the words, like she was shooing away a stray cat instead of her daughter and 2 grandchildren. My daughter's hand tightened around mine. My son frowned. "Grandma?" he asked softly. I felt something inside me freeze and then, strangely, go very, very still. I didn't argue. I didn't ask, "What does that mean?" I didn't beg to be let in. I just took a breath, reached for my kids' hands, and said, "Come on, let's go get pancakes." We walked back to this car in silence. I could feel my mother watching from behind the curtain as we pulled away. We drove to a diner off Route 9, the kind with cracked red vinyl booths and laminated menus that haven't changed in 20 years. Inside, it was warm and loud and unapologetically ordinary. The waitress gave the kids extra whipped cream on their hot chocolate without asking and tucked a candy cane into each napkin. "We're having our own Christmas brunch," I told them, forcing cheer into my voice. "Just us." They didn't say much. My son poked at his eggs. My daughter turned her drawing over on the table and traced the outline of the tree with one finger, smearing a bit of glitter onto the wood. Halfway through the meal, my phone buzzed. I almost ignored it. Then I saw the name. Mark. My brother. I slid my finger across the screen. "Hey, what the hell, Mira?" he blurted out. No greeting, no pause. "Why did you cancel Jenny's lease?" I blinked. "What?" "The leasing office called her this morning," he said, voice climbing. "They said the cosigner withdrew. She's not getting the apartment now. You were the cosigner. They said you backed out. What are you trying to prove?" I stared at the sugar packets lined up in the metal holder. "I never signed anything," I said slowly. "I didn't cancel anything. I didn't even know she had a new place lined up." "Don't lie to me," he snapped. "She already gave notice at her current place. Half her stuff is in boxes. She might not have anywhere to live in January because of you." "Mark," I said, trying to keep my voice level, aware of my kids' ears. "I'm telling you the truth. I did not sign a lease. I did not cancel a lease. I have no idea what you're talking about." "You're being selfish," he cut in. "You've been weird ever since Dad died. You think you're better than us. You knew she needed that deposit. You just didn't care." He hung up. I stared at the screen for a long moment, then turned it face down. "Everything okay?" the waitress asked, dropping off another plate. "Yeah," I lied. "Everything's fine." That night, after I tucked the kids into bed and turned off the string lights on our little artificial tree, I sat down at my laptop. I wasn't just curious. I was angry. I opened my email and typed the leasing company's name into the search bar. One result popped up from 3 weeks earlier, an unopened message forwarded from my mother's email address. Subject F-Dude verification required, urgent. The kind of subject line I always assumed was junk. My stomach twisted as I clicked it. Inside, there was a short message from some generic leasing office address, then a PDF attachment. I opened the PDF. My name, my address, my date of birth, all correct. At the bottom, a digital signature, mine, or a version of it. It was a cosigner cancellation request, effective immediately. I felt the room tilt, just slightly. I hadn't signed this. I hadn't even seen it. I'm not a forensic tech genius, but I know my way around metadata. I downloaded the file, opened the properties, checked the IP log on the e-signature. The address was familiar. Not from work, not from my home, from their zip code. Specifically, a residential node on my parents' street. It didn't take long to connect the rest. Mom had asked me weeks earlier for help with some utilities stuff. Said she needed to update a form and didn't know where to find certain numbers. I'd sent her a photo of a bill and, like an idiot, listed out some details she claimed she could never remember. My middle name spelled correctly, the last four of my social, the exact way the bank formatted my name. Enough information to fill out an application. Enough information to cancel one. She had pretended to be me. She had withdrawn the cosigner. Timed it so the leasing office would call Jenny on Christmas morning. Timed it so the blame would land squarely on my shoulders. Timed it so my brother would blow up my phone before I even finished breakfast at a diner with my kids. Suddenly, her face in the doorway made sense. She didn't want us there because the trap had already been set. The rejection at the door wasn't random. It was cover. I scrolled back through years of messages in my head. The veiled digs, the subtle rewrites of arguments that somehow always ended with me apologizing for things I didn't remember doing. It hadn't started with the lease. That was just the first time I had proof. I didn't call her. I didn't send a fiery text or a snarky email with screenshots and IP logs. I just sat there, staring at the glowing screen, and felt something inside me click into place. There was a time when I would have confronted them, let them twist the story, shout over me, cry, claim misunderstanding until I questioned my own sanity. Not this time. A few years before he died, my dad had quietly set up inheritance accounts for each of us, me, Mark, and Jenny. He made me the executor, not because I wanted the responsibility, but because I was the only one he trusted not to gamble it away or trade it for a boat. Each account was locked until certain milestones: marriage, first child, home purchase. If they hit the milestone and asked, I was supposed to release their share. Jenny's milestone was this move. She'd emailed me back in October, saying she was finally getting her own place and would need the funds in January. I hadn't processed it yet. Work and life and everything else had gotten in the way. But now I knew what they thought of me. Not as family, as a tool. I closed the PDF, opened the fund portal, and logged into Jenny's account. I didn't touch the balance. I didn't empty it. I just flagged it. Review required. Then I removed all disbursement permissions. No email, no warning, just removed. Next would be Mark. But that was for another night. For the first time in my life, I wasn't trying to fix the damage they'd done to each other. I was making sure they couldn't keep doing it to me. The thing about being the responsible one is that everyone assumes you'll keep showing up, no matter how many times they move the goalposts or set the field on fire. They count on your exhaustion. They count on your love. Mostly, they count on your silence. Dad never said it out loud, but he knew that. It's why, when he set up those inheritance accounts, he didn't put Mom in charge. He didn't split control evenly between us. He made me executor. Not because I love you more, he'd said, sitting at my kitchen table with a stack of papers and a look that said he'd seen this coming long before I did. Because you're the only one I trust to not blow it the second things get hard. At the time, I thought he was being dramatic. Now I knew he was being generous. Each of us, me, Mark, and Jenny, had a separate account, locked, tied to life milestones. The idea was that we wouldn't get our share until we hit something real: first child, marriage, home purchase. No lump sum free-for-all. Milestones only, and only when we asked. Jenny's milestone was supposed to be now. Back in October, she'd sent me an email. Hey, big news. Finally getting my own place. Moving out in January. I'll need the inheritance transfer for the deposit. Can you process it around New Year's? Love you. At the time, I'd flagged it important and then promptly drowned under a wave of work deadlines and school events and flu season. I hadn't taken action yet. Sitting at my laptop after Christmas with the forged lease cancellation still glowing on my screen, that email felt different, not like a request, like a setup. Dad wanted those accounts to be second chances, backup plans, foundations. Mom and my siblings saw them as jackpots, guarantees. They forgot who held the key. I logged into the fund portal, the one Dad and I had painstakingly set up the year before the cancer got bad. 3 accounts, 3 names, 3 balances that represented his last attempt at making sure we wouldn't destroy each other after he was gone. I clicked on Jenny's first. Balance, untouched. Still whole, still there. I didn't withdraw a cent. I didn't reallocate anything. I didn't punish her financially. I just scrolled to the settings and changed one small line. Disbursement permissions removed. Status, review required. No one but me would see that change until she tried to cash out. I hit save. Then I sat back and stared at the screen for a long moment, feeling the weight of what I'd just done, and the strange lightness of it, too. For the first time, I wasn't cleaning up their mess. I was preventing the next one. Next, I clicked on Mark's account. He'd been talking about his big opportunity since Thanksgiving. A boutique renovation startup, some kind of high-end home transformation business that sounded suspiciously like a midlife crisis dressed in reclaimed wood and Edison bulbs. He'd been hounding me for weeks. Need that verification letter, sis. Bank just needs something official saying the funds are there. It's no risk to you, just for show. I'd started to draft it once, pulled up the account, checked the balance, opened a blank document. I hadn't finished it. Now, I opened the draft folder, highlighted the half-written letter, and hit delete. Then I went back to his account. Reset password, removed external access, flagged for review. I left the money where it was, whole, waiting, untouchable. Not because he deserved it, because for once, they were going to learn what locked actually meant. When I was done, I closed the browser, cleared my cache, and shut the laptop like I was sealing a vault. It wasn't petty. It was precise. Dad had trusted me to guard these accounts. They'd shown me exactly what they thought of my name and signature. So I stopped letting them use either. A few days into January, my mother sent a group text. Hope everyone's easing into the new year. Miss seeing you all. I saw the typing bubbles pop up almost immediately. Mark responded with a, Jenny sent a... I stared at the screen, thought about all the ways I could answer. Then I locked my phone and set it face down. The next knock on my door came a week later. It wasn't frantic like Jake. Mark. It wasn't angry. It was expectant. 3 quick taps, spaced out like someone was trying to sound casual. I checked the peephole. Mark stood there in a coat too thin for January, breath fogging in the cold air, holding a stiff manila envelope. He looked older than he had at Christmas. Not wiser, just worn. I opened the door just enough so the warm air didn't escape. Hey, he said, skipping greeting, thrusting the envelope toward me. This is the letter for the bank. They need it this week. I didn't take it. You can leave it in the mailbox. He frowned. I drove across town, Mira. You can at least talk to me. You talked to me on Christmas, I said. Called me a liar and selfish before I even knew what was going on. That seemed like enough. He flinched, just a little. I was upset. Jenny's been freaking out. Mom said... I know exactly what Mom said, I cut in. And I know what she did. I've seen the documents. His jaw tightened. So you're really going to screw both of us because you have some vendetta against her? I exhaled, tired. You think this is about revenge? What else would it be? He snapped. It's about trust, I said. Dad put my name on those accounts because he trusted me to protect them. You want to use your share as collateral for a loan? Fine. Do it when you've got the bank, the business, and your own finances stable enough to not drag Dad's last gift through the mud. Until then, no. You're acting like you're better than us, he muttered. No, I said. I'm acting like I'm separate from you. There's a difference. He stared at me for a long moment, then dropped the envelope into the mailbox slot without another word and walked away. I didn't touch it. 3 days later, it rained. By the end of the week, the envelope was a sad, pulpy mound at the bottom of the box. I left it there until the mail carrier pulled it out and tossed it with the circulars. The shift started slowly. Jenny's new lease fell through. I found out the way everyone finds out about her life, through social media. A vague post. Funny how some people pretend to help you but disappear when it matters. Lesson learned. Her comments filled with sympathy and emojis from people who didn't know the whole story. Mark's loan application crumbled when the bank couldn't verify his collateral. A friend who still worked in lending at the regional branch mentioned it over coffee. Your brother put you down as executor for some trust, she said carefully. When we tried to confirm the account, we hit a wall. Internal note said access had been restricted. He was not happy. Internal note is correct, I said. He shouldn't have counted that money before it was his. Mom tried another tactic. A small box arrived at my house one night. Handwritten address. No return name, but I didn't need one. Inside was a plastic-wrapped tray of cookies, a framed photo of me at 8 years old, holding my first bike, and a note. Hope this reminds you where you come from. Love, Mom. The handwriting was neat, careful. The message, not so much. Where I come from, a place where my name could be used without my consent, where my children could be turned away on Christmas morning with a sentence about energy, where my signature meant access, not respect. I put the photo in the back of my closet. The cookies went straight into the trash. They thought I was punishing them. They thought I was hurt, dramatic, withholding. But that wasn't it. I wasn't reacting. I was done reacting. This wasn't a tantrum. It was a closure. By mid-January, Mom's tone shifted in ways only I could hear. Another voicemail. Thinking about rewriting my will. Want to make sure we handle everything fairly. Maybe we could have lunch and talk it through. I don't want there to be any confusion later. There it was. The bait. The invitation to step back into the role. Trusted child, executor, peacemaker. In the old days, that would have worked. I would have gone, listened, let her spin stories about fairness, while quietly agreeing to whatever made everyone else feel safe. Now, I deleted the voicemail before it finished playing. What she didn't know was that Dad had already handled the real will years ago. The house she lived in wasn't exclusively hers. It sat in a trust split 3 ways. 1/3 mine, 1/3 Mark's, 1/3 Jenny's. Legally irrevocable. Her rewriting couldn't change that. But I already knew I'd never claim my share as a place to live. It was a line on a document, not a home. The kids started asking questions again, the way kids do, carefully, testing the edges of your answer. Can we go see Grandma? Just for a minute? My daughter asked one night, twisting her blanket between her fingers. Maybe things are different now, my son added quietly. Maybe they miss us. They did miss us, but not enough to admit what they'd done. We don't visit people who lie to us, I said gently. We don't visit people who hurt us to protect their mistakes, even if they're family. They didn't like it. They didn't argue either. By February, the texts from Mom came less frequently. The last big one was long and vague. I don't know what I did wrong. I miss you and the kids. I hope you find peace. No confession, no ownership, just a soft landing pad for her conscience. She still didn't get it. This wasn't a fight we were going to resolve over brunch and apologies. This was a fracture that had been forming for years, finally visible. There'd be no neat family dinner, no sweeping forgiveness arc. This wasn't a pause. It was a divorce. I was done being married to people who only felt love when they were in control. Spring should have felt like a new beginning. The snow melted early that year. The trees budded faster than usual, and everything seemed determined to bloom, like the world was announcing, loudly, that winter was over. But inside my house, the shift felt different. Not lighter, not happier, just clearer. I'd stopped waiting for their next move. They, however, had not stopped making them. The first real hit came out of nowhere, on a Tuesday morning, when the elementary school's number flashed across my phone. I answered immediately. This is Mira. The secretary sounded calm, too calm. Hi, Ms. Hale. Everything's fine, but we wanted to let you know your mother came to pick up Emma from class today. My blood ran cold. She did what? She claimed there was a family emergency and you'd asked her to bring Emma home. My heart thudded painfully. She's not on the pickup list. That's why we called you. She was adamant, but we stopped her before she could sign anything. The secretary hesitated. She said you made a mistake and that Emma needed to come stay with them for a few days. My daughter, my 8-year-old baby, being told she needed to come stay with them. I was out the door before the secretary even finished the sentence. At the school, Emma was sitting on a bench outside the office, coloring quietly. Her face lit up when she saw me, but I saw the confusion beneath it. Grandma said something was wrong, she said. She said you needed me. I crouched in front of her. Nothing is wrong, I said firmly. You're safe. You're always safe. She nodded, but her eyes drifted past me, toward the door where the secretary had said my mother stood earlier. Something inside her had cracked. Nothing dramatic, nothing loud, but a seed of uncertainty planted where trust used to be. And that was when the line inside me snapped completely. Up until now, I'd stepped away. I'd detached. I'd locked financial doors, blocked attempts, enforced distance. But this? Trying to take my child? This wasn't dysfunction. This was danger. That afternoon, I sat with the principal and signed updated records. I removed every extended family member from the emergency contacts and authorized pickup list. My mother's number was blocked from Emma's phone, from my son's phone, from every school portal login. When I walked out of that office, I did not feel guilty. I felt like a mother. That evening, I called my lawyer. Not to complain, not to vent, not to posture. To update my will. Everything goes to my children, I said. and guardianship, if anything happens to me, cannot, under any circumstances, go to my biological family. Not my mother, not my siblings. There was a pause on the line, then, given what you've told me, that's wise. I hadn't even told him everything yet. I explained the forged signature on Jenny's lease cancellation, the inheritance account manipulation, the school incident, my mother's escalating behavior. By the time I finished, he wasn't just supportive, he was alarmed. We'll put everything in writing, he said. And Mira, keep documentation on everything. This could become necessary later. Oh, I said softly, I already have documentation. My lawyer didn't know I'd kept digital receipts for years. Screenshots, emails, bank alerts. Signs of small betrayals I'd ignored because love made me blind. Not anymore. 2 days later, the next escalation came through. Another flagged bank alert in my inbox. My brother Mark had attempted to use his inheritance funds as collateral again, but this time he'd submitted a forged verification letter with a fake digital signature. Mine, copied from an old email. I stared at the notification, not angry. Just tired. So tired. I called the bank and filed a fraud report. The trust clause Dad had included allowed the executor, me, to permanently freeze accounts in case of misuse. So I froze his, and Jenny's, both. Not out of spite, out of necessity. If they were willing to forge my name on lease documents and bank forms, they were willing to try anything. They had shown me who they were. I believed them. The next step needed to be formal. I drafted a certified letter addressed to my mother's house. Calm, clinical, not one word more emotional than necessary. Inside, I attached and a copy of the fraud report, the school incident documentation, trust termination confirmation, and one final sentence. You will not be part of our lives again. 2 days later, she showed up at my house, but she didn't get far. The officer who responded to my trespass call told me later that she'd been crying, saying she didn't understand, that she was just trying to fix things, that her daughter was being dramatic. I didn't come to the door. I didn't watch from the window. I simply heard the police car drive away and felt the quiet settle again. Mom still doesn't know that the house she owns is legally mine in 4 years when the trust converts. And she never will, not from me. Because when it does convert, I already know what I'm going to do. Sell it. Every room, every photo, every fake apology sealed in drywall. Gone. Let them wonder why their legacy ended up in a listing on Zillow. Let them wonder why I didn't cling to the symbol they weaponized for decades. Because I finally understood something I should have learned years ago. Loyalty is not owed to people who harm you just because they share your blood. And family isn't defined by who raised you. It's defined by who protects you when things fall apart. My mother tried to steal my identity. My sister tried to steal my name. My brother tried to steal my future. None of them would ever steal my children. By early spring, I was done with second chances. Done with guilt. Done with explanations. Done with justifying my boundaries to people who never planned to respect them in the first place. I was out, but they weren't done. Not yet. Spring shifted into early summer, and for the first time in years, my life didn't feel like a series of emergencies waiting for me to fix them. The kids and I slid into a rhythm that felt ours. Simple, quiet, honest. Weekend mornings at the lake, cabin nights with board games and burnt marshmallows, homework at the kitchen table. Silence that wasn't hostile, just peaceful. No more blocked number voicemails. No more urgent texts from Jenny. No more guilt-laced paragraphs from Mom. The absence wasn't loneliness. It was oxygen. And then, slowly, new roots started to form. When the trust officially converted in late summer, the house, the one Mom called hers, the one she used to leverage guilt and control for decades, legally became mine. There was no ceremony, no dramatic showdown, just a few signatures emailed from a lawyer, a digital confirmation, and the quiet click of a door sealing shut behind me. I didn't move into it. I didn't fix it. I didn't drive by to see it. I listed it. The real estate agent asked if I wanted staging. I told her no. Let it stay empty. Let the walls echo the truth for once. When the place sold, I put every cent into a savings account for my kids. Dad's legacy going exactly where he would have wanted, even if he never could have predicted the war it took to protect it. With that chapter finally buried, I made another decision. A quieter one. A final one. I changed our last name. Not the kids. They were already Hales. Just mine. I went back to my grandfather's original surname. The one before his father changed it at Ellis Island, back when the family still stood for grit, not guilt. No announcement, no Facebook post, no phone call explaining it. Just a clean legal break. When the paperwork was finalized, I held the new ID card in my hand. My name felt like mine for the first time in 30 years. We moved that fall. Nothing dramatic, just a slightly smaller town 30 minutes away, closer to my job, closer to the lake, closer to the version of myself I wanted to grow into. New schools, new neighbors, new routines. My kids adjusted faster than I did. Kids always do. Their backpacks were hung up beside a new door, their shoes piled beside a new rug. Their laughter filled a space untouched by anyone else's expectations. They asked about Grandma, less and less. But sometimes, quietly, in that soft way kids ask heavy questions, Emma would look at me and say, "Are we safe here?" Every time I answered the same, "Yes, baby, we're safe." And for the first time, I believed it. Months passed. We lived. Peacefully. Until the day Emma came home from school, eyes wide and cheeks pale, holding a letter in her hands. "Mom," she whispered, "this came for me." The envelope was small, crumpled at the edges, addressed in shaky cursive. My mother's handwriting. My stomach twisted, the way it does when a wound you thought healed suddenly stings again. I opened it carefully. Inside was a single sheet of notebook paper, folded twice. The handwriting was unmistakable, the tone unfamiliar. It wasn't manipulative, it wasn't dramatic, it wasn't guilt-soaked. It read, "I was wrong. I'm sorry. You're right. We broke trust, and I broke your little girls' hearts. I don't expect forgiveness. I just needed you to know that I realize it now. Grandma." No excuses, no explanations, no threats veiled as sentiment, just a confession. Emma looked up at me, clutching the paper to her chest. "Can I write back?" My instinct, every trauma-trained muscle memory, wanted to say no, absolutely not. Because this could be another trick, another manipulation, another chance for Mom to reach through the boundary and pull us back into her orbit. But this wasn't my letter. And it wasn't about me. It was my daughter's choice, her heart, her boundaries, her healing to navigate. So I swallowed my fear and said, "Write what's in your heart." That evening, both kids sat with me at the kitchen table. The same table where I'd signed the new will, the new name, the new life. Emma wrote slowly, carefully, chewing the end of her pencil. When she was done, she handed it to me. It read, "Thank you for your letter. I miss you sometimes. I feel safe here with Mom. I hope you can find happiness too. Love, Emma." It was gentle. It was honest. It was boundaried. It was everything I wish my own mother had taught me how to say when I was 8. I hesitated for a long minute, my fear fighting my daughter's autonomy, then sealed the envelope. I mailed it that night. No return address. Just a message sent out into the world, the kind that isn't meant to reopen a door, only to acknowledge that one had existed. Later, after the kids went to bed, I sat alone in the living room, holding the last of the dying summer light. I thought about forgiveness, how people talk about it like it's charity, like it's noble, like it's something you owe someone who hurt you. But forgiveness isn't a gift. It's a boundary. It's a decision to stop letting their actions anchor you in the past. Reading Mom's letter didn't change what happened, but mailing Emma's reply, that changed something in me. Because for the first time, I realized healing isn't pretending they didn't hurt you. Healing is choosing what happens next. And this time, I choose the ending.